Hey guys, so today I'm here with the RedRock 4x4 Crawler Max full width front bumper with the winch mount, fitting all 2018 and newer JL Wranglers. So this is going to be for the JL owner looking for a very functional front bumper, but with some custom styling that stands out from all of those other heavy-duty options that you may be taking a look at on the page. So this is going to offer you a number of different benefits. First off, you do have the stubby steel plating design in the middle that's going to offer you recovery points, a winch plate, as well as light mounting options. And then you also have the tube design up top as well as on the ends to provide you full front end protection, protecting to your tires as well as your grille without compromising any approach angles on the trail. So not to mention, this hybrid design is just going to all around give you a more aggressive look while staying very different than those other heavy duty options like I mentioned. So this is going to be for that JL owner looking for a front bumper that makes their rig stand out. So this is going to be roughly $400, making this a very affordable option as far as a full width front bumper goes. So full width front bumpers are usually a little bit more expensive because of the extra benefits that they offer as far as protection goes. So those less expensive options are usually going to consist of stubby front bumpers as well as mid-width front bumpers. However, this in comparison to some other more expensive options for full width front bumpers is a little bit less expensive just because of the tube design and the hybrid design overall. However, you're not compromising any functionality with this, and you still are getting a ton of utility as well as a ton of aggressive styling out of this front bumper. So overall, in my opinion, I think this comes with every standard feature that you would want out of a full width front bumper at a very affordable price point. So install is going to be a very easy 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, probably taking you about 2 hours to get the job done with some basic hand tools. So speaking of the install, let's jump into that now. The tools that I used for my install were an impact wrench, an 18mm, 16mm, 8mm, and 7mm deep socket, a 16mm shallow socket, a 3/8 inch drive ratchet, a trim removal tool, and a flathead screwdriver. So our first couple of steps are going to include taking off our upper splash guard as well as our lower, and then we can fully remove our bumper. Now for the upper splash guard, you're going to need a flathead screwdriver or a trim removal tool, and we're going to pop off the 8 pop clips that are holding in the splash guard. So you're going to have 2 in the frame rail on the bottom of your splash guard. So you can just push that pop clip up and then pull it out. And then you're going to have 6 along the front. Now you don't necessarily need to take off these 6 along the front. I'm just doing it just to give you guys a better view on how we're actually going to take off the bumper. I'm going to pop all of them out. Now, like I said, you can also use a trim removal tool to do this. However, I think a flathead is a little bit easier than a trim removal tool just because there are indents on the side to pull up that tab. Now I would like to mention, if you have a sport model front bumper, there will be 2 7mm screws behind here that you will need to remove. However, we are working on a Sahara here, so we do not have those on our front bumper. So now we can fully remove this upper splash guard out of the way. So now that we're underneath our Jeep, we are at the lower splash guard here. We are going to remove the 2 8mm bolts in these recessed holes on either side of our lower splash guard. So I'm going to use an 8mm deep socket and an impact wrench to get those off. So now we can remove the 8 pop clips that are holding in the front of our splash guard. I'm going to be using a trim removal tool in order to remove those. So after our final pop clip is removed, we can fully remove our splash guard. So our next step is to remove this lower skid plate and get it out of the way so we can access our bolts on our bumper. I'm going to be using a 16mm socket to remove the 2 bolts that are holding it in. So after that is removed, we can slide our skid plate up and remove it. So there is a trim piece here. I did remove it in order to give you guys a better look at the studs coming through our frame rail. I'm gonna be removing these two nuts with an 18mm deep socket and my impact wrench. Now we can repeat that on these 6 other studs. So now on the inside of your frame rail, you're gonna have the same 2 studs, and we're going to remove those 2 nuts with that same 18mm socket. However, you may want to use a hand ratchet because it is difficult to get an impact wrench in here. So now we can do the same thing for the other side, for those inner studs. So now before we can remove our factory bumper, we do need to disconnect our main fog light wiring harness. All we have to do is to press that clip and pull back, and it'll pop right out. Now we can remove our bumper. So now we can take off our bumper just by pulling back and getting this out of the way. So what we need to do now is remove our fog lights from our front bumper. Now this is the Sahara front bumper. It's gonna be a little bit different from the Rubicon as well as the base model Sport. However, the Sport model is gonna be a little bit easier, but you will still be using the same tools. So first we're gonna go ahead and unplug our fog lights, and then we can take a 7mm socket and go ahead and remove the 4 screws that are holding in each fog light. And we can remove fog light. Do the same thing for the other side. So what we need to do now is remove our wiring harness for our fog lights. Now there is a front and a back plastic piece that we need to separate in order to expose that wiring harness to remove it. So I'm going to take a 7mm socket and remove all of the screws that are holding in the plastic pieces together. They're basically going to be the perimeter of the whole bumper. There is one missing from here, but there's another one we can continue to. So this plastic's pretty delicate, so if you did strip one, this one is stripped. I just put a flathead screwdriver behind it and just pushed up on the screw just to get it out. Then we can continue down the side. So now that all of our screws are removed, I'm going to start unclipping the clips that are holding in the exposed part of our wiring harness. I'm just using a trim removal tool to do so. Then we can move over to the other side where our other harness is exposed. So what we can do now is separate the front piece from the rest of the bumper. So I'm going to pull this back portion up, and we have to move it around our tow hooks. That's one. So we can take that off, and then that's going to expose our wiring harness. So now with the trim removal tool that we used before, we can go ahead and pop off the series of clips that are holding in our wiring harness. So before we go ahead and install our new front bumper, I did want to tell you guys a little bit more about it in comparison to your factory front bumper. Now right off the bat, this is going to offer you a ton more functionality than your factory front bumper is able to offer you. However, it is still going to be the same length. So you still are getting full front end protection. You're getting front tire protection as well as a bull bar or a crash bar up top that's going to protect a little bit more of your grille than your factory bumper would. Now, even though this is still going to be roughly the same length, the standard width or a full width front bumper, this is still going to have angled ends up on the side with the tube design, so it's going to allow you for a better approach angles off-road as well as some larger wheels and tires. Now this is going to be a lot more durable as well, made of a cold rolled steel, and it's got a nice two-stage black textured powder coat finish on top, which is going to protect that steel underneath from any rust or corrosion. What it's also going to do is create an aggressive and more off-road feel to your Wrangler. Now you are getting a couple of different benefits that your front bumper is unable to offer you. Like I mentioned, you are getting that grille protection. You do get a tube bull bar with a couple of reinforcement tubes up there. You also are getting 2 recovery points, 2 D-ring mount points on the front for some safer and more efficient recovery points than your factory tow hooks were able to allow. And you're also getting a drop-in winch plate. Now this is going to be a little bit lower than some of the other top-mounted options on the page, but your factory front bumper is unable to offer a winch plate at all. So that is a benefit there, and it's going to be able to hold a winch with up to a 12,000 pound pulling capacity as well. So there's a couple of other things. You do get 2 light mounting tabs up top for any accessory lighting that you want to add down the line, and you are able to swap over the factory fog lights, which we are going to do next. So enough about these 2 bumpers side by side. Let's go install our fog lights. So now we can go ahead and install our fog lights using our provided hardware. We're going to attach spring clips around on each of the holes on the welded brackets on our front bumper, and then we can go ahead and use our bolts to secure them down. So I'm going to head around this side to give you guys a better view. So we can take our spring clips and slide them onto each of the holes, making sure that the threaded part is facing down. So after those are on there, we can grab our fog light, put it in place. So we can grab our provided hardware, which is going to be the small bolts and flat washers. So I'm just going to put them in place for now, making sure that they're sitting in the spring clip, and then we can go ahead and thread them in and tighten them down. I'm going to take a flathead screwdriver. You can also take a Phillips head screwdriver, clean those up. So now we're ready to mount up our front bumper. This bumper is heavy, so I would recommend to grab a friend. So what we can do now once our bumper is on is secure it down. So on each of the 8 studs, we're going to install a flat washer, a lock washer, and then a nut, and then tighten it down with a 16mm deep socket. So you're gonna have 2 studs on each side of either frame rail. So I already put on the flat washer and lock washer, and then we can put on the nut and do the same thing for the bottom stud. So once you have all of your hardware threaded on, we can take a 16mm deep socket and tighten those down. So now we can install our factory wiring harness. Now you can tidy your wire up however you want to. What I'm gonna do is just send the longer portion of the fog light that reaches to the other side of the bumper through our winch plate here and plug that into our fog light. Then we can take the other side, plug in our other connection, and then we can plug in our main plug, and then take this extra loom of wire and you can put it inside the winch plate if you'd like and zip tie it in there just to clean it up a little bit. So that's gonna wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe, and for more videos like this, always keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.